They say monsters don't fall in love. They're wrong. Sometimes, they're forced into it. She blackmailed the most feared Mafia Don in New York into marrying her, and he swore he'd make her regret it. This is a story of obsession, secrets, and the brutal power of devotion. Welcome to Blackmailing the Reaper, a dark mafia romance you'll never forget. Let's begin. The second she walked into his office, Pietro knew the storm had arrived. Harper Winters, bare shoulders, red lips, smiling like she didn't just crawl into the lion's den. Pietro leaned back in his leather chair, the skyline of Manhattan a cold silver behind him. The penthouse office was silent, but his eyes were knives, sharp, lethal. She didn't flinch. She never had. He'd known her since she was in pigtails, his father's best friend's daughter, off limits, annoying, loud, everything he hated. But now she was standing before him in a body-hugging black dress, with a sealed envelope in her hand and a dangerous glint in her eyes. "You're late." His voice was flat, cold steel dragged over gravel. "I'm not here to apologize," she said sweetly, placing the envelope on his desk like a queen playing her final move. His jaw ticked. "What is this, Harper?" She sat, crossed her legs, smiled. "Your future." Pietro's silence crackled like electricity. He reached for the envelope, opened it, and read the contract inside. Marriage license, prenup, signature line, her signature already there. "I don't have time for games," he muttered, tossing the paper aside like filth. "Whatever fantasy you've written, take it home and burn it." Her smile never faded. "It's not a fantasy," she murmured. "It's a reality. Unless you'd rather I release the recordings." His blood went still. "What recordings?" Harper leaned in, her voice low. "Recordings of your father, mine, and half the 5 families discussing the harbor shipments. 15 years ago. Off record, off ledger. Enough to burn the city." He stood. Slowly. The chair scraped against the marble. "You're bluffing." She tilted her head. "You want to find out?" God, he wanted to throw something. Harper, freaking Winters. He remembered her as a teenager, following him around like a lost puppy, all wide eyes and nervous questions. Now she was holding him by the throat and smiling about it. "You want to die?" he asked, voice low, deadly. "Because blackmailing me is a fast track to a grave." Her smile faltered just slightly, but she held his gaze. "I want to marry you, Pietro. That's it." Of all the things she could have said, money, protection, power, that was the last one he expected. "Why?" he demanded. She swallowed. "Because I love you." Silence, thick and suffocating. His laugh was hollow. "You think I'll believe that? After the things I've heard about you? After the men?" Her lips parted. Hurt flickered in her eyes, but only for a breath. "They lied," she whispered. "He didn't care. I'm not marrying you." She stood, head held high. "Then the recordings go public tonight." He moved before he could stop himself. 1 step. 2. His hand caught her chin, tilting her face up. "You really think this little fantasy ends well for you?" he growled. "You'll be my wife in name only. No love, no affection, just a contract. I'll make your life a cage." She stared up at him and whispered, "Then lock the door, Pietro. I'm not going anywhere." The wedding was private, quick, brutal. No white dress, no flowers, just a city judge, 2 witnesses, and a contract he wanted to burn. By the time they returned to his penthouse, the tension between them could have shattered glass. She walked through the door like she belonged there. Pietro stayed by the elevator, watching her take in the luxury. Dark marble floors, glass walls, chrome furniture, immaculate. She kicked off her heels by the couch, dropped her purse on his table. He narrowed his eyes. "This isn't a hotel." She turned. "You don't want me here, remember? So don't talk to me like a husband." Wrong move. He stalked forward, grabbing her wrist. She gasped as he pulled her close, their bodies flush. "You wanted this. You begged for it. So now you live with the consequences." His voice was a blade. She blinked up at him. Her lips were trembling, not with fear, with want. "I didn't beg," she whispered. He leaned in, his breath warm against her cheek. No? Then what do you call blackmail? She didn't answer. His grip tightened. You thought forcing my hand would win you love? That's not how this works, Harper. She didn't flinch. I don't want your love. I want your name. He let her go. You have it. That's all you'll get. She watched him walk toward the hallway. His bedroom was behind those doors. She followed. The master bedroom was cold, black and white, like the rest of his world. Harper stood at the doorway. This room is yours? She asked softly. He didn't turn around. Don't come in unless I invite you. Something in her chest cracked. Got it, she said, turning away. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, on his couch, in his space, her scent lingering in the air, strawberries and sin. He got up at 3:07 a.m., went to the kitchen, and found wrappers, French fries, a strawberry milkshake, half melted, shoved to the back of the fridge. His hand curled into a fist. He stormed down the hall and pushed open the guest bedroom door. She was curled in a ball, fast asleep, wearing his oversized hoodie. He should have been furious. Instead, his chest ached. She looked small, fragile, her cheek pressed to the pillow, lashes fanned out. Like she hadn't just ruined his life. He stared at her for a long time, then shut the door. The next morning, she found him at the breakfast table, reading. Perfect posture. A black shirt stretched across his broad chest. She walked in barefoot, hair wild, a chocolate bar in her hand. He didn't look up. Your trash is still in the kitchen. She froze. You broke my house rules in less than 24 hours. She sighed. I'll clean it up. You'll follow my rules, he said without looking at her, or I'll make you. She bit her lip. You hate me that much? Finally, he looked at her. No, he said, his voice low. I don't hate you, Harper. She dared to hope for a second. I despise you. You think you've won, Harper? You've just become my personal hell. The Reaper was a control freak. Harper realized it by hour 12. Everything in the penthouse had a place, a purpose, a shine. His shoes were lined in perfect military rows, notebooks labeled by month, then color-coded. Even the damn apples in the kitchen were lined up like soldiers. And then there was her. She was a walking mess, a living explosion of scarves, lip glosses, and chaos. She tried to be careful the first night. She really did, but her body was tense, her brain wired, and when she couldn't sleep in the stiff, soulless guest bedroom, she snuck into the kitchen. A burger, fries, a strawberry milkshake, her comfort, her rebellion. She tossed the wrappers in the trash, shoved the cup in the back of the fridge, and tiptoed back to bed, half smiling to herself. But Pietro Greco was not the kind of man who missed details. When she came into the kitchen the next morning, he was already seated at the marble counter, sleeves rolled up, black shirt molding over broad shoulders, coffee steaming beside him like it feared being cold. The burger wrapper sat next to him like an accusation. She froze in the doorway. He didn't look up. You broke my house rules in less than 24 hours. She stepped inside slowly, the tile cold under her bare feet. I didn't know there were rules. You didn't ask. She crossed her arms. You didn't tell me. He looked up at that. Those dark, winter-dead eyes meeting hers like a sniper sight. You're in my world now, Harper. You play by my terms. She smiled. Just a little. I married you, not signed up for boot camp. I didn't agree to marry you, he snapped. You signed. Because you twisted my hand. I did what I had to. You did what no one ever dares, he said, voice low. You made me your prisoner. She stepped closer, heart hammering even as her voice stayed soft. You're not the prisoner, Pietro. I am. His gaze flickered. Just for a second. Then he stood, slow, deliberate, and rounded the island. Every step felt like thunder. She tried not to back away. You think this is a game? He murmured, stopping inches from her. You think living under my roof, wearing my name, means you get to keep acting like a spoiled little brat? She looked up at him, her chin tilted high, but her voice barely past her throat. No. Then clean your mess. His voice was ice. No more fast food. No more clutter. No more. She dropped her scarf on the floor. He went still. What did I just say? Her lips twitched. You're allergic to chaos, aren't you? His hand lashed out, grabbing her wrist, pulling her flush against his chest. Her heart stuttered. His body was all heat and danger, caged in a tailored frame. You really want to test me? She swallowed. Maybe I just want to see if you feel anything. He stared at her for a long, dangerous beat, and then he released her like she burned. She cleaned up the burger mess that morning, quietly, alone. And then she cleaned more. Not because she was scared of him, but because she didn't want him to see her as some brat playing house. She'd wanted him since she was 16. She'd dreamed of that cold voice and those eyes that saw everything. And now that she had his last name, she didn't want to be just the woman who tricked him. Even if she was. She folded his laundry, put her books on one shelf, not 3, moved her makeup to a tray in the bathroom. Tiny, pitiful rebellions replaced by shaky order. He didn't thank her. But he didn't yell again either. On day 3, she found him in the study, standing at the window, phone to his ear, voice low. She's not a threat. I have it under control. Pause. No, she won't talk. Harper stood in the hall, heart pounding. He was talking about her. She stepped back, quiet, careful, but not careful enough. His head snapped around before she could disappear. Enjoying the walls, Sposa? He said without emotion. Wife. She walked in, chin lifted. Didn't realize I needed permission to use the hallway. His lips barely twitched. There are places in this house that aren't for you. Like your bed? She said quietly. His gaze flared. She wished she could take it back. But she couldn't. Not when it was the truth. She'd saved herself for him. All those years. While the world whispered lies, while he believed every single one of them. She was a virgin bride in a loveless marriage, and he didn't even know. He stepped closer. Are you trying to earn my attention, Harper? Would it work? Careful, he said softly. You're not ready for what that means. That night, she left her scarf on the couch again, on purpose. And when she woke the next morning, it was gone. Folded, placed on her pillow, her chest squeezed. She found him in the kitchen an hour later. He was silent as always, reading something in Italian. Black coffee. Cold glare. She sat across from him, this time with a granola bar. Not fries. Not a milkshake. He looked up, then down at the granola, and said nothing. Small victories. But the peace didn't last long. That afternoon, she was walking down the hallway when she heard it. Whispers. From the staff. She married him for the money. Her daddy must have begged him. I heard she slept with half the cartel boys in Miami. She's selfish, spoiled, a liar. She stopped. Her blood froze. And then, a male voice. I bet the Reaper only married her to shut her up. Laughter. She walked away before they saw her, straight to the bedroom, and locked the door. Pietro found her hours later, curled up in the bed, her eyes red. He didn't ask what happened, didn't offer comfort. But he sat in the chair across from the bed and said the one thing he hadn't before. Why me? Her voice cracked. Because you were the only man I ever wanted. He stared at her, then stood, turned away, and said nothing. You don't have to love me, Pietro, but you don't get to hate me for lies you never questioned. The whispers started like smoke, thin, curling through the halls of his empire. Pietro didn't care about gossip. He never had. But when it concerned his name, his wife, he listened, even if he didn't want to. She was with that playboy in South Beach last summer. They say she's been passed around since high school. She must have had something on him. No way the Reaper would choose her willingly. He stood in the shadows of the corridor outside the security wing, arms folded, face unreadable, while his men talked like fools behind a cracked door. She's hot, I'll give her that. But marriage material? A snort. Not unless you like your women spoiled, loud, and used. That one stuck. Used. The word wrapped around his spine like barbed wire. Pietro turned, walked away, and didn't speak to anyone for the rest of the day. He found her in the kitchen again. Of course. Harper stood in front of the stove in a pair of his black sweatpants, rolled 3 times at the waist to fit her, and a tank top that showed a sliver of her back when she reached up into the cupboard. There was a strawberry milkshake on the counter. She hadn't even bothered to hide it this time. She turned as he entered, face lighting up for just a second, a hopeful flicker, a small, sweet smile, and then she saw the look in his eyes, like ice had replaced bone, like disgust had etched itself into every line of his face. She straightened. "What?" He didn't answer, just stared. At her. At the milkshake. At the woman who had blackmailed him into marriage and laughed while doing it. "You've been busy," he said coldly. She blinked. "What?" "Making a name for yourself, leaving a trail." Her brows pulled together. "What are you talking about?" He took a step closer. "You really think I wouldn't hear the stories, Harper?" "What stories?" "The ones you earned." Her mouth parted. The milkshake trembled in her hand. "I don't know what you think you heard, but don't lie to me." His voice was a whip now. "You wanted my name. You got it. But don't pretend you're something you're not." Her throat moved as she swallowed. "You think I've slept around?" His jaw flexed, but he said nothing. Her fingers tightened around the counter edge. "And what if I had? We weren't together. You didn't want me. That doesn't matter now." She stared at him. "You're judging me for things I never did." He raised a brow. "Then why do so many people believe otherwise?" Her breath hitched. "Because people hate what they don't understand. And you never cared to ask the truth." He crossed the distance between them. His voice dropped. "You forced me into this. I loved you." "Don't," he snapped. "Don't say that word like it means anything. Love is weakness. It's leverage. It's manipulation dressed in sweetness." She flinched like he'd slapped her, and maybe he had, just not with his hands. Later that night, she didn't come to dinner. He told himself he didn't care. He cut his steak, read his briefings, sipped his wine. But her chair stayed empty, and the milkshake cup was still in the trash, untouched. When he passed her door, he paused, listened. No sound. He knocked once. Sharp. Nothing. He tried the handle. Locked. Harper. Still nothing. He almost walked away. Almost. Instead, he leaned close to the door. "I don't want liars in my house." A beat of silence. Then, softly, "Then you probably shouldn't have married yourself." His fingers curled around the doorframe. He should have walked. But her voice came again. Quieter. "I didn't lie to you, Pietro. I just never had a chance to explain." He didn't sleep that night. He laid awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the past 3 days. Every detail, every contradiction. The rumor that she was with some cartel heir in Miami. But she was in his father's charity reports, listed as working at a shelter all summer. The whispers that she chased rich men, but her father's wealth eclipsed most of them. And the most telling thing, she never defended herself when he accused her. She just looked like she'd been gutted. The next morning, she was gone from the apartment. Not a trace of her. Pietro's jaw locked. He checked the staff. No one saw her leave. No car registered. No message. But when he walked back into the bedroom, something caught his eye. A folded paper, on the pillow where she never slept. He opened it. Her handwriting. "You don't have to believe me, but I never gave myself to anyone else. I wanted the first time to be with someone who hated me a little less." His stomach clenched. The page shook slightly in his hand. He folded it again. Tighter, shoved it in his drawer, and reached for his phone. Find her. Now. She was in Central Park, sitting on a bench near the lake, wrapped in one of his coats, feeding a group of ducks like the world wasn't on fire. He approached slowly. She didn't turn around. "I wasn't running," she said softly. "I just needed air." He stayed silent. "I know what they're saying," she continued. "I've heard those rumors since I was 16. His eyes tracked her hands. She tossed another crumb into the water. "They called me spoiled, a gold digger, a tease, all because I was the daughter of a rich man and didn't play nice with the boys." He watched her. I thought marrying you would protect me, she whispered. But maybe I just gave them new weapons. He sat beside her, close but not touching. Why didn't you deny it? He asked, voice low. She smiled, small, sad. Because it wouldn't have mattered. You already believed them. Silence settled between them like fog. Finally, she turned to him. I never slept with anyone, Pietro. Not one. He looked at her. She met his eyes without flinching. I saved everything. For you. A muscle ticked in his jaw. Her voice broke. Even when you didn't want me. The air changed. Thick, heavy, charged, and for the first time in years, Pietro Greco felt something dangerous crack open in his chest. I've belonged to you for a long time, Pietro. You just never noticed. The problem was simple. He couldn't stop watching her. Pietro Greco, the Reaper of New York, the man who built empires on blood and fear, was becoming obsessed with the one woman who should have been beneath his attention. Harper Winters, his wife, the one who tricked him, the one who told the truth. She returned to the penthouse without a word. Didn't cry, didn't explain. She just slipped off her shoes, hung up his coat, and disappeared into the guest bedroom like nothing had happened. But something had, and Pietro couldn't unsee it, the way her hand trembled when she reached for the door. The hollow under her eyes, the quiet. She'd stopped pushing, stopped teasing, stopped trying, and somehow, that felt worse than her chaos. The next morning, he found the kitchen spotless. Not a single crumb, no milkshake, no candy wrappers. A small bowl of fruit sat on the counter, arranged by color. His chest tightened. She was trying. Hard. He hated it, because it made him want to take every word back. She wasn't like the women he knew. She didn't flirt with his men, didn't spend his money, didn't ask for anything. She cleaned the guest bathroom, folded towels, left notes for the staff. He saw her in the security footage, sitting on the balcony for hours, writing in a leather journal she never let anyone see. Sometimes she talked to herself. Sometimes she just stared at the sky, always alone. 3 nights after the park, Pietro came home late. His meeting had run long. Some idiot in Brooklyn tried to skim off the top. Blood had to be spilled. He opened the front door of the penthouse, expecting silence. Instead, he found chaos. Not loud, not wild, but small, concentrated disorder. Shoes by the couch. Her cardigan over the back of his leather chair. A half-finished puzzle spread across the coffee table. His eye twitched. He walked deeper inside, scanning the mess. And then, he found her. On the floor, curled in a blanket. Asleep on the rug like a stray cat. Surrounded by puzzle pieces and a bowl of popcorn. Something inside him clenched. She looked soft, defenseless, a smudge of chocolate on her cheek, her hand curled like a child's over the edge of the blanket. He should have woken her, should have scolded her for using the living room like a college dorm. But he didn't. He stood over her for a long minute, then, without a word, turned out the lights and left her there. The next morning, the puzzle was gone. The shoes were in the closet, the cardigan folded. She was in the kitchen, eating yogurt in silence, eyes fixed on the floor. You cleaned, he said, pouring coffee. She flinched at the sound of his voice, then nodded. I know you hate the mess. His brow furrowed. You like puzzles, he said instead. She blinked. I do. Why? She shrugged. It gives me something to fix. He stared at her, longer than he should have. And when she stood to leave, he said something that surprised them both. Don't hide your things. She froze, turned. What? He looked at her fully now. I don't want you to feel like a stranger in your own home. Her lips parted. For once, she had no clever reply. He started noticing things after that. She hummed when she cooked, sang under her breath when she folded laundry, wore his shirts when she thought he wouldn't see. She talked to the plants in the hallway. And she always left the last bite of dessert in the fridge untouched, like she was saving it for him. Why? Why, when he'd been so cruel? Why hadn't she screamed back? Why hadn't she told the staff off for gossiping? Why hadn't she defended herself until he dragged the truth out of her?
He found himself opening her journal once when she left it on the table, but the pages were blank until the middle. One line, scrawled in ink. He looked at me today, like I wasn't a mistake. He closed it and didn't touch it again. That night, he came home early. She wasn't expecting him. He walked into the kitchen and caught her mid-bite. Strawberry milkshake, double cheeseburger, large fries, ketchup, the works. Her eyes went wide like a raccoon caught in the trash. Pietro said nothing. She set the burger down, wiped her mouth like a guilty child. I know. I'm not supposed to. He walked over, picked up a fry, dipped it in ketchup, ate it. She stared at him like the earth cracked open. You're not going to yell? He arched a brow. Do you want me to? She blinked. No? Then eat. She hesitated, then picked up the burger again. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her devour it like it was the first real food she'd had in weeks. Why junk food? He asked. She swallowed. Because my parents never let me have it. He frowned. Why? They were obsessed with image, health, control. She gave a small laugh. I guess I like breaking rules. He tilted his head. Even mine? Her eyes lifted slowly to his, especially yours. When she finished, she stood to clean up, but he stopped her. I'll do it. She blinked. You? He took the tray from
her hands. Go. Rest. She backed away slowly, like he might change his mind. And maybe he should have, but he didn't. He washed her plate, tossed the cup, and stood alone in the dark kitchen, wondering when she'd become more than a nuisance, wondering when her voice had become the one he waited for. He dried his hands, turned out the light, and whispered into the dark. What are you doing to me, sweet girl? She had no right to look that good. Not in his suit jacket, not in heels that made her legs look a mile long, not on his arm like she belonged there. Pietro's jaw clenched as they stepped into the ballroom. Glass chandeliers above, the press to their left, enemies everywhere. She smiled like she didn't notice the stares, the cameras, the whispering mouths that always tasted like lies. But he noticed everything. The curve of her spine, the pink gloss on her lips, the fact that half the men in the room were trying not to look at her, and failing. He hated that he noticed, hated more that he cared. The event was for one of the Italian banks, white-collar money-masking, blood-stained hands. He moved through the crowd like a shadow. She followed like light. Pietro felt her hand slip from his as they neared the terrace doors. I need air, she whispered. He gave a small nod and turned to handle a conversation with Don Marcello. It lasted 3 minutes, maybe 4. And when he turned back toward the doors, she wasn't alone. The man was no one important. Pietro didn't even remember his name. Too young, too confident, and far too close. He was laughing at something Harper said. His hand brushed her arm. She smiled politely, not flirty, but the image didn't matter. The only thing Pietro saw was another man's hand on what was his. He was across the room before his blood finished boiling. Step away. The voice that silenced the 5 families. Cold. Ruthless. The man turned, startled. Pietro didn't even spare him another glance. Now. He stepped back quickly. Harper blinked up at him. Pietro. He didn't let her speak, didn't give her time. He grabbed her wrist, gently but firmly, and led her through the terrace doors, down the steps, into the shadows of the garden, far from the music, far from the crowd, far enough to lose control. The air between them snapped like a live wire. What the hell was that? He bit out. She yanked her arm free, cheeks flushed. A conversation. Calm down. You were smiling. So? So you don't smile at men like that when you're wearing my name. Her eyes narrowed. It was nothing. It didn't look like nothing. She stared at him, breath shallow. You're jealous. His hands fisted at his sides. I don't get jealous. Yes, you do. You're my wife, he growled. You don't let men touch you. He brushed my arm. I should break it, she gasped. You're insane. No, I'm possessive. He stepped closer. You wanted this marriage.
You forced it. Now live with what it means. She looked up at him, chest rising and falling. And what does it mean, Pietro? That I'm yours to parade, but not to touch? That I'm good enough to wear your ring, but not your respect? His jaw flexed. You don't get to cry victim. I'm not crying, she snapped. But you don't get to burn me and then get mad that someone else offered me warmth. He was in front of her before the last word left her mouth, a breath between them, a war. Is that what you want? He asked, voice low. Warmth? Her lips parted, her eyes shined, but she didn't back away. Maybe I just want to feel something. His hand rose, cupped her jaw, rough fingers, a brutal touch with a gentleness she wasn't expecting. You feel plenty, he whispered. Then show me. His mouth crashed against hers. Hard, fierce, unforgiving. She moaned, soft, shocked, hands flying to his chest as his body pressed hers against the stone wall behind them. The kiss deepened, his lips devouring, tongue claiming, breath stolen. She kissed him back like she'd waited her whole life to be ruined by him. His hands slid into her hair. Her fingers clutched his suit. The garden vanished. The world burned. He broke the kiss with a growl, forehead pressed to hers, breath ragged. You drive me insane, he murmured. She smiled shakily. Good. His hands gripped her hips. You have no idea what I want to do to you. Then do it. He froze. Her gaze met his bold, trembling, real. I want you, Pietro. I always have. Something wild passed through his eyes, like restraint being torn to shreds. But he didn't move, didn't take, didn't consume her like the animal he could become. Instead, he whispered like a prayer, Piccola tentazione, little temptation, then stepped back, slow, controlled, like a man walking away from fire with his skin still smoking. They didn't speak on the way home. The tension in the car was suffocating. Her hand lay limp in her lap, fingers still tingling from his touch, her lips swollen, her skin burning. She didn't know what she'd expected. Rage? Passion? A promise? But all she got was silence. Cold, endless silence. When they reached the penthouse, she opened the door first. But he grabbed her wrist at the threshold. Not rough, not painful, just there. Don't let another man near you again, he said quietly. She looked up at him, eyes searching. Why? His jaw clenched. Because I won't be responsible for what I do next time. Cliffhanger line. Go to bed.
Harper, before I change my mind and keep you up all night. He told himself it meant nothing. The kiss, the fire, the way she moaned into his mouth like he was salvation wrapped in sin. He told himself it was just a release, a punishment, a reminder of what she took when she forced him into marriage. But the lie didn't hold, because ever since that night in the garden, he couldn't stop feeling her. She was in his head, his skin, his control, and now she was in his space, again. He came home early that evening, no warning, no guards, and the second he stepped inside the penthouse, he felt it. Chaos, her chaos. Shoes in the hall. A blanket thrown over the back of the couch, an open bag of sour candy on his dining table, and, God help him, one of her bras hanging from the doorknob to the kitchen. He stared at it for a long time, a black lace thing, delicate and ridiculous and so her. His blood boiled, not because it was inappropriate, but because the sight of it made his mind wander. Her wearing it, her taking it off, her on that damn couch in one of his shirts, sucking a lollipop and watching cartoons like she didn't just haunt his every breath. He stormed into the living room. Harper! Silence. Then, in here, she called softly. He turned toward the voice and found her in the laundry room, on the floor, crying. She looked up when he stepped in. Her eyes were glassy, red, a sock in one hand, a detergent bottle in the other. I'm trying, she whispered. Something in his chest twisted. He frowned. What? I know I'm messy. I know I drive you insane. But I'm trying, Pietro. He didn't move. Her lip trembled. I sorted the towels by color. I vacuumed the hall. I even organized your mail. She gestured weakly to the folded laundry beside her. And then I dropped everything and Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to leave the candy out, or Her cheeks flushed. The bra. I was in a rush and... He stepped forward. She looked up, defeated. I know you hate having me here. He stopped in front of her. And I know I'm not the kind of woman you wanted. But I wanted you. So I thought, if I just tried harder, if I cleaned up after myself, if I didn't make noise or take up too much space, maybe you'd stop hating me. He knelt, slow, silent, and took the sock from her hand. She stared. I don't hate you, he said quietly. Her breath hitched. I used to think I did, he added, but that was easier than admitting the truth. She swallowed. Which is? He met her eyes. You terrify me. She blinked. Me? He nodded once. I've ruled this city. I've killed for less than disrespect. I've buried men who crossed me. His voice softened, almost like it hurt to say. But you? You walked into my life, flipped it inside out, and forced me to feel again. Her fingers curled in her lap. You think I want that? He whispered. You think I want to crave your scent on my pillow? Your laughter in my halls? Your goddamn candy in my mouth? Her lips parted. I wake up thinking of you, he said, voice raw now. I go to bed wondering what you're dreaming about. I open my closet and find your mess, and instead of fury, I feel lonely when it's not there. Her eyes welled. Pietro. I'm cold because I have to be, he growled, because the second I let someone matter, really matter, I bleed. He stood then, pacing once, like he couldn't breathe. You scare me, Harper, because I don't know how to hate you anymore. She stood slowly, walked over to him. Soft steps, no chaos, just her. When she reached him, she placed her hand on his chest, over his heart. It was racing. Then stop trying to, she whispered. Stop fighting what's already yours. His eyes dropped to her fingers, then to her lips, then back to her eyes. Angel, he breathed. She smiled, just barely. That's a new one. He shook his head. No, it's you. Later that night, he found her scarf draped over the couch again, but he didn't scold her. He picked it up, brought it to her bedroom, and laid it over her sleeping form like a second blanket, then stood there in the doorway, just watching. The next morning, she made breakfast, burned the toast, oversugared the coffee. He ate it all anyway. When she wasn't looking, he threw out the third slice of toast, but left the strawberry milkshake in the fridge untouched. Later, she found a note beside it. Next time, get 2 straws. P. Cliffhanger line. She smiled at the note, held it to her chest, and whispered into the quiet, He's cracking. He told himself it meant nothing. The kiss, the fire, the way she moaned into his mouth like he was salvation wrapped in sin. He told himself it was just a release, a punishment, a reminder of what she took when she forced him into marriage. But the lie didn't hold. Because ever since that night in the garden, he couldn't stop feeling her. She was in his head, his skin, his control, and now she was in his space. Again. He came home early that evening. No warning, no guards, and the second he stepped inside the penthouse, he felt it. Chaos. Her chaos. Shoes in the hall. A blanket thrown over the back of the couch. An open bag of sour candy on his dining table. And, God help him, one of her bras hanging from the doorknob to the kitchen. He stared at it for a long time. A black lace thing, delicate and ridiculous, and so her. His blood boiled. Not because it was inappropriate, but because the sight of it made his mind wander. Her wearing it, her taking it off, Her on that damn couch in one of his shirts, sucking a lollipop and watching cartoons like she didn't just haunt his every breath. He stormed into the living room. "Harper!" Silence. Then, "In here," she called softly. He turned toward the voice and found her in the laundry room, on the floor, crying. She looked up when he stepped in. Her eyes were glassy, red, a sock in one hand, a detergent bottle in the other. "I'm trying," she whispered. Something in his chest twisted. He frowned. "What?" "I know I'm messy. I know I drive you insane. But I'm trying, Pietro." He didn't move. Her lip trembled. "I sorted the towels by color. I vacuumed the hall. I even organized your mail." She gestured weakly to the folded laundry beside her. "And then I dropped everything and Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to leave the candy out, or Her cheeks flushed. "The bra. I was in a rush and—" He stepped forward. She looked up, defeated. "I know you hate having me here." He stopped in front of her. "And I know I'm not the kind of woman you wanted. But I wanted you. So I thought if I just tried harder, if I cleaned up after myself, if I didn't make noise or take up too much space, maybe you'd stop hating me." He knelt, slow, silent, and took the sock from her hand. She stared. "I don't hate you," he said quietly. Her breath hitched. "I used to think I did," he added, "but that was easier than admitting the truth." She swallowed. "Which is?" He met her eyes. "You terrify me." She blinked. "Me?" He nodded once. "I've ruled this city. I've killed for less than disrespect. I've buried men who crossed me." His voice softened, almost like it hurt to say. "But you? You walked into my life, flipped it inside out, and forced me to feel again." Her fingers curled in her lap. "You think I want that?" he whispered. "You think I want to crave your scent on my pillow? Your laughter in my halls? Your goddamn candy in my mouth?" Her lips parted. "I wake up thinking of you," he said, voice raw now. "I go to bed wondering what you're dreaming about. I open my closet and find your mess, and instead of fury, I feel lonely when it's not there." Her eyes welled. "Pietro, I'm cold because I have to be," he growled. "Because the second I let someone matter, really matter, I bleed." He stood then, pacing once, like he couldn't breathe. "You scare me, Harper, because I don't know how to hate you anymore." She stood slowly, walked over to him. Soft steps. No chaos. Just her. When she reached him, she placed her hand on his chest, over his heart. It was racing. "Then stop trying to," she whispered. "Stop fighting what's already yours." His eyes dropped to her fingers, then to her lips, then back to her eyes. "Angel," he breathed. She smiled, just barely. "That's a new one." He shook his head. "No, it's you." Later that night, he found her scarf draped over the couch again, but he didn't scold her. He picked it up, brought it to her bedroom, and laid it over her sleeping form like a second blanket, then stood there in the doorway, just watching. The next morning, she made breakfast, burned the toast, oversugared the coffee. He ate it all anyway. When she wasn't looking, he threw out the third slice of toast, but left the strawberry milkshake in the fridge untouched. Later, she found a note beside it. "Next time, get 2 straws. P." Cliffhanger line. She smiled at the note, held it to her chest, and whispered into the quiet, "He's cracking." Harper should have known better. Should have kept her head down, her mouth shut, and her smile hidden. But she hadn't. Because for the first time since the wedding, she felt something strange in Pietro's gaze, something that looked like warmth, maybe even want. So when the family charity gala came up, she didn't hide. She dressed up, red silk, low back, her hair curled over one shoulder like a whispered invitation, not to anyone else, just to him. She wanted to see that look again, the one he wore when he thought she wasn't watching, the one that said she wasn't just his wife by blackmail, she was his weakness. But he hadn't looked at her, not once. He'd been busy, cold, distant, business. he said. But Harper knew better. So when Matteo De Luca, a mid-tier cousin from the Chicago family, offered her a drink and a smile, she took it. She needed to feel something, even if it was a mistake. Pietro saw it all. From across the room, glass of bourbon in hand, he watched her laugh, watched her accept the drink, watched her tilt her head when Matteo leaned in. His fingers tightened around the glass. The room was full of allies, enemies, sharks in suits. He couldn't make a scene. Not here. Not yet. So he finished his drink, set the glass down, and walked toward her like a man walking toward war. Harper didn't see him until it was too late. Matteo was mid-sentence when Pietro's hand closed around her elbow, firm but not bruising. "Excuse us," he said, his voice calm. "Deadly." Matteo nodded quickly and backed away. She tried to speak. He didn't let her. He led her through a service hall, then out into the loading dock behind the hotel. Dark, empty, private. He turned on her like a storm. "What the hell was that?" She blinked. "What?" "You let him touch you." "It was a conversation." "You smiled." She crossed her arms. "So what?" "He was being nice. You've barely looked at me all night." His eyes flashed. "You don't get to punish me by flirting with another man." "I wasn't flirting." "You wore red." Her mouth dropped open. "What does that have to do with anything?" "You wore my favorite color, my cut of dress, my scent." He stepped closer, too close, and then gave another man the smile that's mine. She swallowed hard. "You're jealous." "I told you before," he growled. "I don't get jealous." "You're lying." "Don't push me, Harper." "Or what?" He stared at her. Then his hand caught her waist. She gasped as her back hit the brick wall behind her. His body pressed against hers, all fire and fury and want. "I warned you," he murmured. "I told you what would happen if another man so much as looked at you." She trembled beneath his hands. "And what's that, Pietro?" she whispered. "You going to punish me?" His lips brushed her jaw. "I'm going to ruin you." He didn't kiss her. Not at first. He let his breath trail along her cheek, down her neck, until she arched into him like she needed him to breathe. His hand moved up her thigh, slow, possessive, rough with restraint. "You wanted my attention?" he rasped against her ear. "You've got it, Angel." Her hands gripped his jacket, her breath hitched. "Then stop holding back," she whispered. He growled, low, dark, broken, and then his mouth was on hers. It wasn't soft, it wasn't gentle, it was devouring, tongue tangling, teeth scraping, hands anchoring her against the wall like he needed her skin to survive. She kissed him back harder, opened her mouth for him. Let him take what he'd been denying them both. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head. His other hand gripped her hip, fingers flexing like he needed to leave a mark, like he needed to prove she was his. She moaned into his mouth. He swallowed it whole. The kiss deepened until she was gasping, arching, pleading. Then he stopped. Pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. His pupils were blown. His chest rose and fell in wild rhythm. She reached for him again, but he caught her wrist. "Not here," he said roughly. "Not like this." Her heart cracked. "Why not?" "Because if I take you now," he whispered, voice ragged, "I won't stop." He stepped back, hands fisted at his sides, eyes dark. She stared at him, breathless, swollen lips, throbbing heart. "You don't get to walk away again," she whispered. His voice was pure gravel. "If I don't walk away, I'll lose control." She lifted her chin. "Then lose it." He stared at her. Silence. Then he turned and walked into the dark. She leaned against the wall, hands shaking, heart in pieces, and whispered, "You already have." She slid to the ground and smiled to herself. "He wants me. God help us both, but he wants me." She kissed like a woman who had never been kissed properly before. That was the first crack. It hit him somewhere deep in the gut, when her hands trembled against his chest, when her lips parted under his with the kind of raw, aching hunger that didn't feel like experience. It felt like desperation, like thirst, like she'd saved that kind of surrender for someone who didn't want it, didn't deserve it, didn't believe her. Pietro didn't sleep after the gala. He paced his penthouse like a caged animal, 1 minute replaying the feel of her mouth under his, the next replaying her words, her face, her truths. I never gave myself to anyone else. I saved everything for you. He hadn't believed her, because belief made her real. And if she was real, he was the monster in the story. He didn't go to the office the next day, didn't see his men, didn't answer his phone. Instead, he searched, pulled reports, called in favors. Harper Winters, dug deeper than he ever had. Age 22. Daughter of investment mogul Nolan Winters. 2 degrees. 1 from NYU, 1 online in psychology. Top grades. No arrests. No scandals. No verified romantic connections. But it wasn't the reports that undid him. It was the footage. Security camera. From a club she'd gone to 2 years ago. The very one people whispered she'd been seen leaving with a man. Pietro watched the footage 10 times. She was alone. The man had only approached her outside. She'd said something, face stiff, and shoved past him into a waiting car. That was it. She never smiled. He never touched her. And the man? He worked for the DeLucas, the same family whose cousin tried to flirt with her last night. A family that had always wanted his seat at the table. A setup, from the start. And he, Pietro Greco, the Reaper, king of cold logic, had swallowed it whole. He didn't knock. He barged into her room like a man ready to confess murder. She was curled up in bed, hair wet from a shower, reading one of her endless romance novels. She looked up, startled. Pietro? Is it true? Her breath caught. What? He stepped closer, towering over the bed, voice low and sharp. What you said before, that you've never, with anyone. She flushed instantly. He saw it. All of it. The shame, the embarrassment, the truth. You're asking me now? She whispered. He didn't move. She sat up slowly, wrapped the blanket tighter around herself. I told you the truth that night in the park. I didn't believe you, he said, voice hoarse. I know. A long, brutal silence. He stepped closer. What about that man from the club? The one people say, never touched me, she whispered. He cornered me outside. Tried to talk. I shut him down. That was it. You never went home with him? Her eyes snapped to his. No. He stared at her. Heart thudding. Truth hitting him like bullets. Then why let the world think otherwise? Because the world never cared what I really was. They wanted a spoiled rich girl, a scandal, a tease, so I let them have her. Her voice broke, but I saved myself for you. Silence, suffocating, heavy. He sat on the edge of the bed, unsure if his hands were shaking or if the ground beneath him had finally given way. I thought you were playing me, he said. I was, she said softly, but not the way you think. He turned to her, and she smiled. It was sad, wounded, but honest. I blackmailed you for your name, she whispered, but I did it because I was in love with you, and I knew you'd never choose me on your own. He exhaled like he hadn't breathed in years. Her hand reached for his, small, warm, unsteady. I didn't want your money, or power, or your protection. She leaned in. I wanted you. His hand curled around hers, gently, like she was made of glass. Angel, he breathed. She blinked up at him. He stared at her lips, then her eyes. I've done so many things, he murmured, but the way I looked at you, the way I judged you, may be the worst of them. She squeezed his fingers. I just wanted to matter to you. You do. The words left him before he could cage them. You always did.
That's why I hated you. She smiled. Because I made you feel. He nodded. Too much. Too fast. And I didn't know what to do with it. He leaned in then. Slower this time. No rage. No fury. Just want. When his lips brushed hers, it was a vow. You were never anyone else's. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in quiet, breathing the same air, his forehead resting against hers, his thumb stroking the back of her hand. I'll never let anyone hurt you again, he whispered. Not even me. Her eyes shined. You're scaring me, Pietro. He frowned. Why? Because I think you're becoming the man I always knew you could be. He exhaled. Then let me become him for you. She laid her head on his shoulder and whispered, Then don't stop now, because I'm already yours.
Pietro Greco was a man of patterns. He studied movements, watched for weaknesses, timed his enemies like ticking bombs. But watching Harper? That wasn't strategy. That was need. She didn't know he was paying attention, that he'd had his security team route the penthouse feeds to his phone, that he studied her when she moved through his space like she was starting to belong there, when she hummed while brushing her hair, when she read on the balcony with one foot tucked under her and a soft blanket wrapped around her shoulders, when she snuck chocolate into the office she'd quietly claimed for herself, the room he never used, now littered with her candles and sketchbooks. She didn't know that he lingered outside the door more nights than he admitted, listening to her scribble into notebooks, to the soft flick of pages, to the quiet sighs, to her. The woman the world saw, spoiled, chaotic, loud, was a mirage. The real Harper Winters? She was quiet when she thought no one listened, gentle in the way she handled the things she loved, soft in all the places the world had hardened. She volunteered 3 days a week at a women's shelter in the Bronx. She didn't tell anyone, didn't post about it, just went, and stayed late. Pietro only found out because her driver mentioned it, said she always brought snacks, that she stayed until every woman in the group had been heard, that she sat on the floor and held their hands, that she listened more than she spoke. Pietro had stared at the man for a long time after that, then tipped him a year's salary and told him not to breathe a word to anyone else. That night, he waited for her to come home. She was late. He didn't panic. Not at first. Then the clock struck 10 p.m., then 10:15, then 10:30. And when she walked through the door, humming softly, her cheeks red from the cold, he stood from the kitchen stool like a shadow rising from the floor. You're late, he said. She blinked. I'm sorry. I lost track of time. Where were you? Bronx. Shelter. Alone? No. She smiled faintly. Driver. Guard. I'm not stupid. He stared at her, then stepped closer. You never told me, he said. She shrugged out of her coat. It wasn't something I did for credit. Still, I should have known. Her smile was small. Why? So you could add it to the reasons I'm not who you thought. He didn't smile, didn't blink, just reached for her hand, laced their fingers, and kissed her knuckles. You keep doing that, she whispered. Doing what? Looking at me like you're discovering someone new. I am. Later that night, he opened the drawer in her office. He didn't mean to read the letters, but they were there, stacked neatly, some sealed, some open, all addressed to him. Dear Pietro, I saw you today. You looked angry. I still think you're beautiful when you're angry. Dear Pietro, you made my father laugh. He doesn't laugh much. I think you're the only one who can make him. Dear Pietro, I think I'm falling in love with you. I know it's crazy. I don't care. Dear Pietro, even if you never love me, I'll still be yours. He closed the drawer gently and sat down in her chair, hands clenched, jaw locked, chest aching. She loved him before he ever touched her, before he looked at her, before he ever earned it. And he dragged her name through the dirt, made her beg, made her bleed for his attention. Now she was trying to move carefully around him, to be quiet, to be perfect, to be enough. But she already was. She always had been. The next morning, she found roses on her desk, deep crimson,
velvety, thorned, a note in his sharp handwriting. For the woman who listened when no one else did. P. She found him in the kitchen an hour later. He didn't look up from the paper, but he spoke first. Do you still write letters to me? She paused. Sometimes. Even now? She nodded. Yes. Why? Her voice softened. Because it's safer to write to the version of you that doesn't look at me like I'm dangerous. He looked up then. His eyes burned. I am dangerous. She stepped closer. I know. And still, you want me. She stopped in front of him. Especially because you try not to want me back. He stood slowly, walked toward her, stopped just shy of touching. You're not what I expected, Harper. She smiled faintly. You're exactly what I hoped for. Why me? Because no one scares me the way you do. He tilted his head. And that's a good thing? She nodded. Fear is just another kind of respect, and I've respected you since I was old enough to understand power. His hand brushed her jaw. You should have run from me. I never wanted safety, she whispered. I wanted you. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear. Then let me be yours the way I should have been from the start.
She didn't know how it started. One moment, Harper was standing in the hallway holding a cup of tea. The next, Pietro was behind her, silent, massive, radiating heat. She turned, looked up. The hallway felt too narrow, too still. His eyes swept over her face like a man seeing something for the last time. Where were you just now? She asked softly. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out, slow, measured, and took the cup from her trembling hands, set it on the nearby table. His voice was rough silk, low, dangerous. You want the truth, Harper? She nodded, breath shallow. He stepped closer. I haven't been able to think since I found those letters. Her heart stopped. You read them? I read you, he said, another step. I read every line of devotion you hid from me. Every confession you whispered to empty paper because I never let you speak them aloud. She tried to swallow, but her throat burned. And I realized. His gaze dropped to her lips. You've been mine longer than I've allowed myself to see. Her knees went weak. Pietro, I don't want to control you anymore. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I want to worship you. He backed her into the bedroom without a single touch, just his presence, his will, his voice. Sit on the bed, Angel. She obeyed, not out of fear, but because the way he looked at her made her feel holy. He moved toward her like he was walking into a confession. His hands were slow, precise. He pulled the tie from her robe and parted it like a veil. Her breath stuttered, but he didn't rush, didn't devour, didn't destroy. He worshipped. His hands slid over her arms, her shoulders, her thighs, like every inch of her mattered. His mouth pressed reverent kisses to her collarbone, her neck, the inside of her wrist. I thought I would ruin you, he whispered against her skin, but now I know. You're the only thing in this world I want to keep whole. Her fingers tangled in his hair. Then don't stop, she whispered. Please, he groaned. I'll never stop, he said. Not with you. She tugged his shirt up and over his head. He let her. For once, he surrendered. Not his control, his walls. And she saw all of him, scarred, carved by war and blood and loss. But under her hands, he was just a man, shaking, hungry, hers. He kissed her again, deeper now, open-mouthed and trembling. One hand at her waist, the other cradling her jaw like she was something breakable. I've never done this like this, he whispered. Like what? Like I feel everything. Her lips trembled. I've never done this at all. He froze, stared at her. I already knew, he said softly, but hearing it, knowing it, changes everything. Then, he eased her back onto the bed, blankets soft beneath her, his body a furnace above her. He whispered words in Italian, breathless, reverent. Mia vita, say Mia. My life, you are mine. He didn't rush, didn't claim.
He earned her. Every kiss, every sigh, every breath. It was slow, intimate, overwhelming. It was theirs. Later, they lay tangled in silence, breath to breath, his chest rising beneath her cheek, his arms wrapped tight around her, like he couldn't bear the thought of letting go. Her voice broke the quiet. "Do you still feel like you're drowning?" He exhaled. "No." "Why?" His hand traced her spine. "Because you're the air now." She kissed his chest and whispered, "Then I'll never let you suffocate again."
The city felt wrong. Too quiet, too clean, like it was holding its breath. Pietro sensed it the moment the elevator doors opened onto the street-level garage. His hand hovered near his jacket, every instinct screaming. The route was short, controlled, guards on every corner. Still, something scratched at the back of his skull. Harper walked beside him, wrapped in his coat, her fingers laced through his like she belonged there. She did. "Why do I feel like you're about to yell at someone?" she murmured, trying to smile. He glanced down at her. "Because I'm trying not to." "For what?" "For insisting you come with me." She squeezed his hand. "I'm fine. It's just a quick stop. You said yourself. Daylight, secure." His jaw tightened. "I don't like being wrong." She tilted her head. "You're not wrong. You're just protective." He stopped walking, turned to her fully. "Listen to me," he said quietly. "If anything happens, anything, you stay behind me. You don't move. You don't look back." Her brows knit. "Pietro, promise me." She searched his face, saw the fear he tried to bury. "I promise," she whispered. He nodded once and guided her forward. That was when the world shattered. The sound came first. A crack, sharp and final, like the sky splitting open. Pietro moved on instinct. He shoved Harper behind him, his body already twisting. Too late. The impact was a punch of heat and force. A wet, terrible sound. A breath ripped from someone's lungs, not his. Her gasp cut through everything. "Pietro," she staggered. Time slowed to syrup. He turned and saw the red blooming across his coat, across her chest. "No," he said. The word tore out of him. "No, no," she folded. He caught her before she hit the concrete, dropping to his knees with her cradled against him. The guards were shouting, guns drawn, someone screaming coordinates into a radio. But Pietro saw only her. Her eyes, wide, stunned, found his. I'm sorry," she whispered, breath hitching. Blood soaked his hands. "Don't you dare," he growled, pressing his palm to the wound, pressure hard, desperate. "Stay with me. Harper, stay with me." She tried to smile. Tried. "I promised," she said weakly. "I stayed behind you." Rage detonated in his chest. "You didn't," he choked. "You stepped in front of me." Her lashes fluttered. "You looked scared." He bent over her, forehead to hers, voice breaking for the first time in his life. "I am terrified," he whispered. "Don't leave me, please." Sirens wailed. Boots thundered. Someone yelled for a medic. Her fingers twitched, then curled into his sleeve. "Pietro?" "I'm here," he said, fierce. "I'm right here, Angel. I've got you." She swallowed, eyes glassy. "If this is how I go, I'm glad it was protecting you." Something inside him ripped clean in half. "Don't," he pleaded. "You don't get to say goodbye." "Not like this." Her mouth parted. A breath caught. "I love you," she whispered. The words shattered him. He kissed her forehead, then her temple, then her lips, soft, trembling, reverent. "I love you," he said back, voice raw and unguarded. "I love you. Hear me. You are not dying. You are mine." Her eyes slid shut. "Harper." He shook her gently. "Look at me. Open your eyes." They fluttered open again, just barely. "I'm still here," she breathed. "Good," he said fiercely. "Stay that way."
The ride to the hospital was a blur of blood and shouting. He never let go of her hand. Not when they loaded her into the ambulance. Not when the doors slammed. Not when the medic tried to pry him away. "She's my wife," he snapped. "Move." They did. He hovered over her as the medic worked, barking orders, cutting fabric, counting breaths. Pietro counted 2, each rise and fall of her chest a prayer. She whimpered when the pain spiked. He leaned down, murmuring into her hair, into her ear. "Breathe with me," he said, "just like we practiced. In, out. I'm here. Agapimu, ella edu."
My love, come here.
Her fingers tightened. "That's it," he whispered. "That's my girl." At the hospital, they took her from him. The doors to the operating room closed, and the Reaper broke. He paced the hallway like a feral animal, blood drying on his hands, his suit ruined. Men approached him. Doctors spoke. He heard none of it. All he could see was her smile, her courage, the way she stepped into death without hesitation, for him. A guard approached cautiously. "Don Greco, we have the shooter." Pietro's eyes lifted. "Alive?" "Yes." His smile was empty. "Good," he said softly. "Keep him that way, for now." Hours passed. Each minute felt like a year carved into his bones. Finally, a doctor emerged. Pietro crossed the space in 2 strides. "She's alive," the doctor said quickly. "The bullet missed her heart by less than an inch. She lost a lot of blood, but we stabilized her. She's strong." Pietro exhaled like a man pulled back from the edge of a cliff. "Can I see her?" "In a few minutes." When they let him in, she was pale against the white sheets, a web of tubes and
Monitors surrounding her. He took her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles. "You did it," he whispered. "You stayed." Her eyes opened slowly. "Did I save you?" she asked, voice thin. He swallowed hard. "Yes," he said. "You saved me." Her gaze softened. "Worth it." Tears burned behind his eyes. "Never again," he said, voice steel-wrapped sorrow. "You will never put yourself in front of me like that again." She smiled faintly. "Then you'll have to learn to stand beside me." He bent, forehead to hers. "I will," he vowed. "I swear it." He squeezed her hand and whispered, "They wanted to break me. Instead, they made me yours." Pietro Greco was no longer calm, not composed, not cold, not the man who weighed every kill with strategy. He was wrath incarnate, because they hadn't just tried to assassinate the Reaper. They'd tried to steal the only thing anchoring him to the light, Harper. And Pietro Greco would drown the city in blood before he let that go unpunished. She slept, pale and still in the hospital bed. Machines beeped. Monitors blinked. But she was alive, breathing, fighting, and that was all that kept him from burning the world that first night. But when her fingers twitched weakly in his and her lips murmured his name in a drugged slur, it was permission, and Pietro took it like an oath carved into bone. The next morning, he walked out of the hospital in a blood-stained black suit and no coat. No driver, no guards. Just got into the back of an armored SUV where his consigliere and 2 of his most trusted lieutenants were already waiting. He didn't speak. He tossed the shooter's dossier onto the table between them. "Where is he?" "Warehouse on 8th. We took out his spotter. No fatalities." "And the one who paid him?" "Still tracing. But the money came through a shell. De Luca territory." Pietro's voice was dead quiet. "Find out which De Luca." "Yes, Don." He leaned back, eyes closed, jaw tight. "She took a bullet," he said softly. They didn't speak. He opened his eyes. "For me." They brought the shooter into the room 10 minutes later, stripped, tied to a chair, bloody but breathing. Pietro stood in front of him, silent. He didn't speak for 30 seconds. Let the man stew in fear. Then, "You aimed at my wife," he said softly. The man spat. "I missed." Wrong answer. Pietro moved so fast, no one saw the blade leave his jacket. The man screamed as it sliced across his cheek. "You didn't miss," Pietro said coldly. She moved. "I don't care about your pride. I don't care who hired you. I care about one thing. He crouched in front of the chair, leveling his eyes with the man's. You put fear in the eyes of the woman I would kill the world for, the man whimpered. Pietro smiled. You die for that, he said simply. But first, you talk. By the time Pietro left the warehouse, the man had confessed everything. A mid-tier DeLuca had arranged the hit, unapproved by the main boss. A rogue move. Jealous, angry, desperate. Pietro gave the order before the man stopped bleeding. Erase him. And the family? Not yet. I want them to watch what happens to traitors. Then we'll talk. He returned to the hospital that evening, still in the same ruined suit. Harper's eyes fluttered open when he entered. You look awful, she croaked. He sat beside her and took her hand. You look perfect. She smiled, weak and small and precious. You didn't sleep. No, he said. I had work. She didn't ask. She didn't have to. You found him. I made him talk. She studied his face. Did it help? No. She squeezed his fingers. You're scaring me, Pietro. His eyes softened. I'm scared too. Her voice trembled. I thought I was going to die. You didn't, he whispered. You stayed. She exhaled. I heard you. What? When I was fading, you said you loved me. His throat tightened. I did. Do you still? He leaned in slowly, cradled her face in his palm. Mia vita, say Mia. My life, you are mine. Tears filled her eyes. I love you too. I know, he said. You've been loving me longer than I deserved. She slept again, and he stayed beside her, head resting against the edge of her bed, hand in hers, heart surrendered. That night, he sent a single message to the DeLuca underboss. Your cousin made a mistake. Now he's nothing but ash. You have one chance to keep breathing. Don't make me revisit the issue. The reply came 10 minutes later. We understand, Don Greco. We'll police our own. The city fell silent, because no one crossed the Reaper and lived to speak of it. He kissed Harper's bandaged hand and whispered, They called me death, but you made me want to live. The city felt wrong. Too quiet, too clean, like it was holding its breath. Pietro sensed it the moment the elevator doors opened onto the street-level garage. His hand hovered near his jacket, every instinct screaming. The route was short, controlled, guards on every corner. Still, something scratched at the back of his skull. Harper walked beside him, wrapped in his coat, her fingers laced through his like she belonged there. She did. Why do I feel like you're about to yell at someone? She murmured, trying to smile. He glanced down at her. Because I'm trying not to. For what? For insisting you come with me. She squeezed his hand. I'm fine. It's just a quick stop. You said yourself, daylight, secure. His jaw tightened. I don't like being wrong. She tilted her head. You're not wrong. You're just protective. He stopped walking, turned to her fully. Listen to me, he said quietly. If anything happens, anything, you stay behind me. You don't move. You don't look back. Her brows knit. Pietro, promise me. She searched his face, saw the fear he tried to bury. I promise, she whispered. He nodded once and guided her forward. That was when the world shattered. The sound came first. A crack, sharp and final, like the sky splitting open. Pietro moved on instinct. He shoved Harper behind him, his body already twisting. Too late. The impact was a punch of heat and force, a wet, terrible sound. A breath ripped from someone's lungs, not his. Her gasp cut through everything. Pietro, she staggered. Time slowed to syrup. He turned and saw the red blooming across his coat, across her chest. No, he said. The word tore out of him. No, 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 she folded. He caught her before she hit the concrete,
dropping to his knees with her cradled against him. The guards were shouting, guns drawn, someone screaming coordinates into a radio. But Pietro saw only her. Her eyes, wide, stunned, found his. I'm sorry, she whispered, breath hitching. Blood soaked his hands. Don't you dare, he growled, pressing his palm to the wound, pressure hard, desperate. Stay with me. Harper, stay with me. She tried to smile. Tried. I promised, she said weakly. I stayed behind you. Rage detonated in his chest. You didn't, he choked. You stepped in front of me. Her lashes fluttered. You looked scared. He bent over her, forehead to hers, voice breaking for the first time in his life. I am terrified, he whispered. Don't leave me. Please. Sirens wailed. Boots thundered. Someone yelled for a medic. Her fingers twitched, then curled into his sleeve. Pietro? I'm here, he said, fierce. I'm right here, Angel. I've got you. She swallowed, eyes glassy. If this is how I go, I'm glad it was protecting you. Something inside him ripped clean in half. Don't, he pleaded. You don't get to say goodbye. Not like this. Her mouth parted. A breath caught. I love you, she whispered. The words shattered him. He kissed her forehead, then her temple, then her lips. Soft, trembling, reverent. I love you, he said back, voice raw and unguarded. I love you. Hear me. You are not dying. You are mine. Her eyes slid shut. Harper. He shook her gently. Look at me. Open your eyes. They fluttered open again, just barely. I'm still here, she breathed. Good, he said fiercely. Stay that way. The ride to the hospital was a blur of blood and shouting. He never let go of her hand. Not when they loaded her into the ambulance. Not when the door slammed. Not when the medic tried to pry him away. She's my wife, he snapped. Move. They did. He hovered over her as the medic worked, barking orders, cutting fabric, counting breaths. Pietro counted too, each rise and fall of her chest a prayer. She whimpered when the pain spiked. He leaned down, murmuring into her hair, into her ear. Breathe with me, he said, just like we practiced. In, out, I'm here. Agapimo, Ella Edo. My love, come here. Her fingers tightened. That's it, he whispered. That's my girl. At the hospital, they took her from him. The doors to the operating room closed, and the Reaper broke. He paced the hallway like a feral animal, blood drying on his hands, his suit ruined. Men approached him. Doctors spoke. He heard none of it. All he could see was her smile, her courage, the way she stepped into death without hesitation, for him. A guard approached cautiously. Don Greco, we have the shooter. Pietro's eyes lifted. Alive? Yes. His smile was empty. Good, he said softly. Keep him that way, for now. Hours passed. Each minute felt like a year carved into his bones. Finally, a doctor emerged. Pietro crossed the space in 2 strides. She's alive, the doctor said quickly. The bullet missed her heart by less than an inch. She lost a lot of blood, but we stabilized her. She's strong. Pietro exhaled like a man pulled back from the edge of a cliff. Can I see her? In a few minutes. When they let him in, she was pale against the white sheets, a web of tubes and
monitors surrounding her. He took her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles. You did it, he whispered. You stayed. Her eyes opened slowly. Did I save you? She asked, voice thin. He swallowed hard. Yes, he said. You saved me. Her gaze softened. Worth it. Tears burned behind his eyes. Never again, he said, voice steel-wrapped sorrow. You will never put yourself in front of me like that again. She smiled faintly. He bent, forehead to hers. Then you'll have to learn to stand beside me. I will, he vowed. I swear it. He squeezed her hand and whispered, They wanted to break me. Instead, they made me yours. 3 weeks later, she came home in his arms. Pietro carried her through the penthouse doors like she was made of glass, refusing help from guards or staff. He didn't trust anyone else to touch her. Not now. Not after what happened. Not after what she'd done for him. Harper had taken a bullet in his place, and the Reaper had fallen to his knees because of it. The rooms felt warmer now, quieter. Her scent was everywhere, vanilla and strawberries and the soft trace of something feminine and real. He'd cleaned the space while she was gone, himself. Put her puzzle back together, rearranged her books just the way she liked, stacked her journals in the office, folded her cardigan over the couch. All the little things she thought he hated, he missed every single one, and he wanted her to know. She looked around when he set her down gently on the bed. "You cleaned," she whispered. "I fixed it." "For me?" "For us," he said quietly. She blinked at him, heart in her throat. "I thought you liked order. I like you more." He sat beside her and brushed the hair from her face. "I need to touch you," he murmured. "Tell me I can." Her voice was barely a breath. "You can." He moved slowly, reverently, as if touching something holy. His fingers skimmed her bare arm, the edge of her jaw, the curve of her hip beneath the soft silk of her sleepwear. "You almost died," he whispered, "but I didn't." He leaned in, kissed her collarbone, her neck, her shoulder. "Because you saved me," he said, again. Her hands trembled as they slipped under his shirt, pushing the fabric up. He let her. He let her undress him first this time, slowly, carefully, like she was unwrapping something she feared might break. But Pietro Greco was already broken, and only she had the pieces, held her like a vow. He kissed her like a prayer. His mouth lingered over every inch of her with aching restraint, forehead, cheek, throat, chest, never rushing, never taking. His hands gripped her like the world might steal her if he let go. She trembled beneath him. "I'm okay," she whispered. "You don't have to hold back." He growled low in his throat. "I'm not holding back," he murmured. "I'm giving you everything." The way he loved her this time was different, not because of what they did, but because of what it meant. He didn't touch her like a man desperate for release. He touched her like a man who'd almost lost everything and couldn't believe he was getting another chance. He murmured in Italian against her skin, "Sei la mia pace. You are my peace. Il mio perdono. My forgiveness. Il mio cuore, la mia anima, la mia redenzione. My heart, my soul, my redemption." She cried beneath him, not from pain, but because for the first time in her life, she was loved. Truly, fiercely, completely. They lay together afterward in the dark, her head on his chest, his arms tight around her. She ran her fingers over the scar above his heart. "I thought you didn't believe in love," she whispered. "I didn't. And now?" He kissed the top of her head. "Now I believe in you." He pulled her closer, lips to her ear. "Marry me again. No blackmail, no secrets. Just us. Say yes, angel." The first time she married him, she'd worn red lipstick and a satisfied smirk. Her fingers didn't tremble when she signed the papers. Her heart was a fist, tight, guarded, pretending. She wore nothing white. There were no flowers, no vows, no kiss, no love, just leverage, just fear. Just Harper Winters blackmailing the most dangerous man in New York. The second time? It was nothing like the first. They didn't invite anyone. No press, no guards, no family, just a judge, 2 witnesses, and a rooftop in Manhattan glowing gold with the setting sun. Harper stood barefoot beneath a white arch Pietro had built himself, wooden, uneven, wrapped in lights. Her hand held a single white rose. She wore a dress he picked out, not because it was designer, because it was her. Soft, simple, off the shoulder, white like forgiveness. Fitted at the waist like a promise. He wore a black suit. No tie, collar open, no armor. Just him, just hers. "You look nervous," she whispered when he reached for her hands. "I'm not." She raised an eyebrow. His voice dropped. "I'm terrified." She smiled. "Me too." The judge asked if they wanted to repeat the formal vows. Pietro said no. I have my own. The judge nodded and stepped back. Pietro turned to her, took both her hands. His voice was steady, but his eyes, God, his eyes, burned with something that made her knees weak. I never planned on love, he said. I thought it was weakness, a weapon. He took a breath. Then you walked into my life like chaos in heels, loud, messy, infuriating, and you ruined everything I thought I knew. A tear slid down her cheek. He smiled faintly, and I thank God for it every day. He squeezed her hands. You didn't just blackmail me into marriage. You shattered my world. And somehow, I still sleep better now because you're in it. Her lips trembled. You taught me what devotion is, what loyalty really means. You stepped in front of a bullet for me, and I'd walk through fire for you 1,000 times over. She sobbed softly. He reached up, wiped her tears with his thumb. I love you, Harper Winters Greco, not because you forced me, but because you freed me. The judge turned to her gently. Your turn? She nodded, breath hitching. She looked up into his storm-dark eyes and spoke. The first time I married you, I thought I knew what love was. She swallowed hard. I thought loving you meant getting close enough to touch, even if you hated me for it. Her voice trembled. I was willing to steal your name just to stay in your world. She stepped closer. But now I know love is something else. Her hand rose, pressing to his heart. It's this, she whispered. The way your heart beats faster when I cry. The way you held my hand when I couldn't open my eyes. The way you built me a home from steel and shadows and protected me even when I didn't deserve it. He blinked hard. I don't need your name anymore, Pietro, she said softly. I already have your heart. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath forever. By the power vested in me, the judge began. But neither of them heard the rest, because Pietro was already pulling her in, already kissing her, already claiming her mouth like it was the most sacred thing he'd ever touched. No hesitation, no shame, just love, fierce and consuming. He whispered into her lips, Ti amo, mia regina. I love you, my queen. She whispered back, sempre tua, always yours. Later that night, back in the penthouse, she sat on the kitchen counter eating a double cheeseburger with ketchup, fries, and a strawberry milkshake, still in her wedding dress, barefoot, smiling. Pietro walked in and paused. You're making a mess, she grinned. You married the mess, Reaper. He stepped in close, pulled her into his arms, and kissed the milkshake off her lips. I'd marry you 1,000 times, he said against her mouth. Careful, she whispered, arms sliding around his neck. I might make you prove it. He lifted her off the counter and carried her toward the bedroom like she was already halfway to being worshipped again. She pressed her forehead to his and whispered, We started in ruin, but somehow we ended in forever. There are 2 guards stationed outside the penthouse, 4 more in the lobby, 1 on the elevator, 2 at the underground garage, and I still don't think it's enough. She laughs when she sees me double-check the security feeds, tells me I'm insane. Maybe I am, but she's pregnant. And the world has no idea what I'll do to protect her now. It started 2 months ago. She was quieter than usual, sleeping more, eating things she used to swear she hated. She cried during a puppy commercial. I knew something was wrong. Or something was right. The night she told me, I thought I was going to pass out. Not because I didn't want it, because I'd never wanted something so much. She handed me a little white envelope like she was afraid I might snap. Inside was a photo, a sonogram, tiny, blurry, a dark speck in the middle of a cloud. Is this? Her voice shook. Yes. My heart stopped. She stepped back, scared maybe I wasn't ready, but I just fell to my knees, right there, in front of her, in front of our future. I pressed my lips to her stomach and whispered, Thank you. Now I'm a damn menace. I track her vitamins. I fire her personal trainer because he made her walk too fast. I banned her from leaving the building unless I'm at her side. I swapped every candle in the penthouse for scent-free ones, and I hired a 5-star private chef to make every single craving she has at any hour of the day. She tried to sneak a milkshake at midnight last week. I caught her. She pouted and said, "You're overreacting." I said, "That's not a word we use when my child is involved." She called me a mafia housewife. I said, "You're damn right." Today, she's wearing one of my black button-ups over her tank top, and her bump is finally showing. It's small. Perfect. A curve of forever under her skin. I can't stop staring at it. She's curled up on the couch with a bowl of pickles and French fries. Together. "Angel," I say gently. "I can't watch you eat that." She grins. "Then don't watch." Harper. Pietro. It's horrifying. It's delicious. I sit beside her, place my hand on her stomach, and just like that, I forget what I was saying. Her hand covers mine. "Do you think they'll have your eyes?" she whispers. I nod. "And your fire. I hope they don't inherit your temper." I raise a brow. "Have you met yourself?" She bursts out laughing. God, I love that sound. Later, I'm still awake when she's asleep. I talk to her belly every night when she can't hear me. "You're safe now, because your mother made me better, and I will burn this world to keep you both safe." The baby kicks. My chest aches. I press a kiss to her stomach and whisper, "Good. Fight back. That's your mother in you." We haven't told anyone. Not yet. She wants to wait. But when the time comes, there will be celebrations, gifts, oaths, blood pacts if I have to. Because this child will never know fear, never know pain. Not as long as I'm alive. Not as long as the Reaper is still breathing. I pull Harper closer in her sleep, one hand over the curve of her belly, and whisper against her ear, "You gave me a home. You gave me a name. Now you've given me a legacy. I'll protect all three with my life." Hospitals are made for death, not life. They smell too clean, feel too cold, sound too clinical. Machines chirp like insects. Footsteps echo like warnings. But right now, one scream from her down the hall, and I'd raze this building to the ground if it meant holding her hand. "Pietro," she gasps, voice hoarse, raw. "I'm here, baby," I say, gripping her hand. "Right here." She's drenched in sweat, hair stuck to her forehead, eyes wild. She's in pain, and I can't kill it. I can't protect her from this. I'd take the pain myself if I could, rip it from her body and bury it in mine. But all I can do is press kisses to her knuckles, hold her trembling hand, and breathe with her. A nurse moves toward her with something sharp, and I growl. "Don't touch her. Mr. Greco, talk to me, not her." Harper grabs my shirt and yells, "Let her touch me, you crazy bastard." I nod. "Step back. Let them help. But not too far. Never too far." Her body convulses with another contraction. I swear the walls shake. "Push!" the doctor shouts. She screams. My name, and I nearly break in half. Minutes stretch into hell. Then, a sound. Not hers. New, small, loud, alive. A cry. I freeze. A nurse speaks through a smile. "Congratulations, it's a girl." I'm numb. She's here. She's alive. They're both alive. I look at Harper, eyes blurred, chest split open. She's sobbing, laughing, beautiful, ruined, radiant. She reaches for me. And in her arms is our daughter, red-faced, furious, perfect. I touch her cheek with one shaking finger. "Hi, Piccolina," I whisper. "Little one." She grabs my finger in her tiny fist. And just like that, the Reaper becomes a father. I've killed men for less than hurting her mother. Imagine what I'll do if anyone touches her. 6 years later. "Again," he said quietly. The little girl across from him narrowed her eyes, clenched her fists, swung. Pietro caught the punch easily, but not too easily. He let her think she got close. That was important. Confidence mattered. "Better," he said, nodding. "But your shoulders open." She huffed. "You always see everything." "Because I watch what people don't show." He crouched, resting on one knee. "You never fight to hurt first, Selena, little star."
Then why do I train? To protect what's yours, he said. To protect yourself. She tilted her head, curls bouncing. Like you protect Mama? A shadow passed over his face, but his voice stayed calm. Yes, he said, exactly like that. She nodded solemnly. So I can protect you too? His heart stopped. She said it so simply, so fiercely, like her mother. No, he said softly, you never protect me. That's my job. She frowned. But if someone hurts you, I'll bite them. He blinked, then laughed, hard. God help the man who tries you, my girl. Later, she sat in his lap eating chocolate ice cream. He cleaned her sticky fingers with a cloth, even though she squirmed. Mama doesn't make me clean, she pouted. Mama doesn't own a criminal empire, he said dryly. She giggled. Am I gonna have an empire too? He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. If you want it, I'll build it for you. Because I built my empire in blood, but I'll build hers in gold. That was Pietro and Harper's story. Did you enjoy their journey? They lied about her, and he believed them. Because believing lies is safer than risking love. But love isn't proven when things are easy. It's proven when doubt is loud, and you choose to believe your partner anyway. Because the world will always try to tear love apart. Only trust decides if it survives. And the moment he finally believed her, not the lies, not the fear, that was the moment love won. Some love stories are sweet, others are survivals. If you crave dark romance, dangerous men, and women who refuse to kneel, you're in the right place. Subscribe for more stories where love is a weapon. Comment what part of their story was your favorite. Hit that like button, it helps the channel. Share this story with others you know would enjoy it. New dark romances every week. So don't forget to hit top bell so you don't miss out on the next story.